Much is a Million? By David Schwartz, pictures by Stephen Kellogg. How much do you think a million is? How much is a million? If 1 million kids climbed onto one another's shoulders, they would be taller than the tallest buildings, higher than the highest mountains, and farther up than airplanes can fly. Now, if all of us in the class were to stand on top of each other's shoulders, how tall do you think we would be? What height would we reach? If you wanted to count from 1 to 1 million, it would take you about 23 days. If a goldfish bowl were big enough for 1 million goldfish, it would be large enough to hold a whale. Presto, 100 stars. If this book had 1 million tiny stars, they would fill 70 pages. Climb aboard. How many stars do you think are in the sky? Do you think there's more than 1 million stars? Let's see. There you have 100,000 stars. If we take this 7-page journey 10 times, we'll pass 1 million stars. Let's do that later. I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. How many stars do you see at night? How big is a billion? If 1 billion kids made a human tower, how big do you think 1 billion is? They would stand up past the moon. If you sat down to count from 1 to 1 billion, you would be counting for 95 years. Would you be able to count to 1 billion? Is 1 billion more than 1 million? Yes. If you found a goldfish bowl large enough to hold 1 billion goldfish, it would be as big as a stadium. If this book had 1 billion tiny stars, its pages would spread side to side. It would stretch almost 10 miles. How tremendous is 1 trillion? How much do you think 1 trillion is? If 1 trillion kids stood on top of each other, they would reach way, way, way beyond the moon. Beyond Mars and Jupiter too, and almost as far as Saturn's rings. Do you think a trillion is bigger than a million and a billion? If you wanted to count from 1 to 1 trillion, it would take you almost 200,000 years. If you put a trillion goldfish in a goldfish bowl, the bowl would have to be as big as a city harbor. If you put a trillion of our stars onto a gigantic roll of paper, it would stretch all the way from New York to New Zealand. Now, do you think there are a trillion people in this world? No. The end.